These are assembly instructions for my handbag with a top handle and a tassel. This is my main piece for the handbag, and I'm folding down on all the score lines. Now that I can clearly see the lines of my purse, I have this pattern cardstock that I'm going to glue onto the exterior of my handbag. I'm just putting glue on the underside of my decorative panels and then just doing my best to center them within those score lines. So if you're using cardstock that does have a direction to it, just be mindful of how you position your pieces when you're cutting them. Next, I'm putting glue on the tab that's at the bottom on the right hand side and that longer tab on the right hand side. I'm folding up the bottom and the side. I'm positioning the cut edge of the bottom and the panel of my purse right along the score line of those two tabs where I've just put glue. So now that I've glued in this side, I'm going to do the same thing on the other. I'm putting glue all along that longer tab and the short tab at the bottom. I'm tucking the tabs inside my handbag and I'm positioning the cut edges right along the score lines of the tabs on both the bottom and the side. And so now I'm working on the flap that closes my handbag. I'm folding down on the score lines for it. I have a flap for that curved front and then an angled flap for the back. I'm just going to glue those two in place. And again, I'm gluing them down, trying to maintain an even border all the way around. So next I have the hardware for my handle. I'm just folding down on the score lines. I have two pieces of hardware and I have 3 pieces for each one. So I'm going to take one of my pieces and put glue on the underside of it. And I've got the tab at the bottom and I'm gluing the one without a tab right on top of it. And then I'm putting glue on top of that. And I'm gluing the second one with a tab at the bottom right over it, making sure that the edges are nice and even. So this makes a nice thick solid piece. I'm doing the exact same thing for the second one. And I'm basically just sandwiching the one that doesn't have a tab on it in between the two that do have tabs. So I have a piece that has 2 little rectangular cutouts that match up with the 2 rectangular cutouts that are on the top of this piece. I put glue on the underside of it. I'm just gluing them down, trying my best to match up the cutouts so that they're exactly on top of one another. So I have these tabs folded away from one another. I'm temporarily going to bring them together and I'm going to insert the tabs into one of the cutouts that's on the top of my closure piece. I'm going to push it all the way through and I'm going to put glue on both tabs. You may want to use double-sided tape here because of the foiling. And then I'm opening up the tabs and laying them flat on the surface of the underside of my closure piece. I'm making sure that my hardware piece is nice and straight, and I'm doing the exact same thing with the second one, pushing it through the cutout, putting glue on both sides, and then folding my tabs flat onto the surface. So next I have another strip that I'm going to glue on top just to cover up those tabs. So I'm putting glue all over the underside of it and I'm gluing it down, trying to center it as best I can over those tabs. I'm going to flip my piece over, so I'm laying it down so that it's flat on my mat and then spreading the glue with my bone folder. So next I have the 3 pieces that are the closure for the front of my bag. So 2 of them are cut out of the same craft board as the hardware that I've used for the handle. So I'm going to flip this one over. I'm putting glue all over the top part and I'm just gluing this little piece edge to edge. And then I'm putting glue on the bottom part and I'm gluing this piece and I want it to fit edge to edge on the bottom. It overlaps a little bit at the top. To glue it to my front flap, I'm using red line tape just to make sure that it stays put. So I'm just putting red line tape on the cardstock part of it. I've placed my piece on my mat so I can see exactly where the center is. That blue line is running through the center. So the gold edge is right on the edge of the curve. The middle of the bottom of my curved piece is on the blue line. I'm going to flip it over and I'm putting a Velcro dot as a closure. I may as well put it in now. My Velcro dot is 3/8 of an inch and it's clear. I'm pulling off the liner on half of my Velcro dot and I'm positioning it as centered horizontally as possible. I'm going to stick the other half of my Velcro dot on top for now. So next I'm working on the handle. I have 3 long strips for it and one of them has a score line at each end and I'm just folding down on that score line. And then I'm putting glue all over one of my long strips that doesn't have the tabs. And I'm just gluing it on the underside of the one that does have the tabs. And I'm making sure that those holes are placed on top of one another and the edges are nice and even. And I'm doing that with the third handle piece as well. I'm just putting glue on the underside of it and just positioning it over the previous one, making sure that those holes are still clear. So just by pinching my handle pieces, I'm curving it. Next, I'm going to insert one side into the hardware that I've already installed. I'm folding it up at the score line, and I have these two small brads. I'm inserting one of my brads into the holes through all layers, and then I'm opening it on the inside. I'm going to do that on the other side as well, folding over that tab at the score line, inserting my brad, and then opening the pins on my brad. I've got the front flap, and this is the back flap, and I'm putting some red line tape along that back flap. So I've got some double-sided tape from the score line to the edge of my piece. I'm removing the liner on my tape. I'm positioning my back piece so that it's even on both sides, and my score line is right up against the edge. And then I'm going to remove the liner on my Velcro. I'm closing down that front flap so that it's positioned exactly where I want it. Then I'm taking my Cricut tool and I'm inserting it between the two layers of Velcro to separate them. And then I'm applying a little extra pressure so that my Velcro dot stays put. And then I'm working on my tassel. I'm starting just by shaping the top of my tassel. So I'm taking my bone folder and I'm just sort of running it across that top part. Then I have two little rectangles. I'm taking the longer and narrower one, folding it in half, and putting a dot of glue just at the bottom, gluing the ends together to form a little loop. I'm putting a little bit of glue just on the corner of my tassel, positioning my little loop just at the top like so. And then I'm going to start rolling my tassel. I'm just taking my time and carefully rolling the top. And I'm trying to keep the top edge as even as possible all the way along. I'm adding glue at the top as I go, just to make sure that my tassel stays put. And then I have that other rectangle. I'm putting glue all along. You could also use double-sided tape here, or you can even heat up your glue gun. I'm starting at the join. I'm just wrapping it around the top of my tassel, like so. I have a little bit of white embroidery floss. And I'm just going to tie my tassel to the hardware of my handle. And here it is, my handbag with a top handle and a tassel.